Broadcasting live from the Phoenix Business Radio X studio in Tempe, Arizona. You are tuning into Culture Crush with Kendra Maples. This podcast will dive into a variety of companies that are crushing it with a great company culture.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Culture Crush. On this podcast, we focus on everything surrounding businesses with a good company culture. We talk with company leaders to learn about real life experiences, tips, and the best practices for creating a healthy work environment. We will also share some resources that are helping to support these growing companies and helping them grow their company culture as well. On this podcast, we continue to highlight amazing companies that are crushing it with a great company culture. And today is absolutely no different. I have actually been following this company for quite a while, so I'm very excited to have them on today. Today, we are highlighting Iron Mountain Data Centers. Iron Mountain Data Centers are operates a global co-location platform that enables customers to build tailored, sustainable, career and cloud neutral data solutions. Ooh, this is a tongue twister. As a proud partner of Iron Mountain Inc., a world leader in the secure management of data and assets trusted by 95% of Fortune 1000. They are uniquely positioned to protect, connect, and activate high value customer data. Whew, that's a tongue twister, but we're going to hear directly from the two of you. So today I want to welcome Dan Ratner, VP, the Chief of Staff and VP Administration, and Julia Kendall, Senior Director of Marketing. So, welcome to the both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for being on. I'm so excited. Like I said, I've been following you guys for quite some time. I've had the chance to meet and engage and truly interact with some of your staff. So, the nice thing is that I have been able to, firsthand see the amazing company culture that you truly have because I've seen it through your employees. I've seen their passion, I've seen their excitement, I've seen them at events where they are so proud to highlight Iron Mountain data centers. So when this whole thing came about, you were actually one of the first companies on the list that I wanted to have on. So the fact that you guys are on today, I am truly honored. So thank you. To kind of start it off a little bit, I would love if one of you can maybe do a better description than I just read of really what is Iron Mountain Data Centers, and before we get into the culture side, just really what is it that you guys do?
Sure, I'll take a shot at that. Thank you. So Iron Mountain is actually a 70-year-old information management company. We're 1,450-ish facilities in 60 countries, and most people know Iron Mountain as kind of the box business or the shred business. And the data center business, if you think about companies and digital transformation and what information is and has been, it's now more electronic. So about 6 or 7 or 8 years ago, there was a decision made that in order to stay relevant to our customer base as they were moving, we needed to move as well. So that's how the data center business really got up and running. And we've grown it over those years to the point now where we have 15 data centers, both through organic growth and acquisition. We've done a couple of acquisitions, including a company that's based there in Phoenix, IO Data Centers. And so now it's really the fastest growing part of our company. And so we're a technology company inside of a logistics company. So the culture is kind of fun because we get to do two things. We get to be part of a big company, but we also get to be kind of a startup.
Mm-hmm. How does that work as far? Well, I'm going to hold on that question actually, because I'm very intrigued to hear how kind of all of that pieces together. Dan, how did you get involved? What's a little bit of your background? How did you get connected with Iron Mountain?
So I've had one of the most incredible careers a human being could ever ask for. I really have been blessed. I've worked in the federal government, state government, local government, the private sector. I taught college at Northeastern University in Boston, and I've worked in not-for-profits. And so cultures are actually interesting to me because I've been in so many different environments. And about 6 years ago, an opportunity came up at Iron Mountain. I had my own consulting business, and I contacted a friend of mine from the Boston area because the company's headquartered in Boston. And I was thinking about a lot of my backgrounds in the security area, and I wanted to get back and do some consulting. And because security is such a foundation for Iron Mountain, it's what we sell. We sell trust and security to our customers. I joined Iron Mountain originally in a senior security role. And I was working in Boyers, Pennsylvania, in our underground facility, which is the most fascinating place on the planet. It's 1.8 million square feet of space, 18 stories underground. About 2,000 people work there before COVID, and that was one of the first places that we started our data center business. So that's how I first got involved with IMDC, what we call Iron Mountain Data Center, IMDC. And so Mark Kidd, who's our general manager, as he was growing the business, asked me to start to develop our philosophy on security and safety and compliance. And so that's how I first got involved. And then, fast forward a couple of years, I became a full-time IMDCer, and now have expanded my roles, and HR is a big piece of what I do. So it's been a great, and a story about the culture and inclusion for me, because I've been given opportunities to grow within the company and kind of do new things.
Yeah. And how long did you say you've been there now?
6 years, coming up on 6 years.
How awesome. That's fantastic. And Julia, what about you? How did you kind of get connected with all of this?
So I always hate following Dan in these situations because he does have such an interesting story. Mine's not nearly as varied, but I've actually only been with the company for 8 months, and I came over. So interestingly, my career started with a very large corporation, but then in between then and now, it was almost all startups. So I very much came from that small, scrappy environment to build a company to a certain size, and then there would either be an exit or there would be, an M&A or something to happen where it wasn't a startup anymore. So then I jumped to another startup opportunity. So interestingly, when this opportunity came around, I was able to take advantage of all the work that Dan and his team have built from the culture that is Iron Mountain, that it was a super unique opportunity for me to come and join a company that was still growing and thriving, and that startup mentality, but was backed by this really big, well-known, respected company that had all these assets to be able to set up all these really cool programs. And really focusing on the culture piece of it, that was super interesting to me, because when you're a small startup, you don't have that ability to really put programs in place to be able to walk the walk. While people can be super well intended, if the funding's not there, or just the human resource, time and energy part is not there, you just can't build the kind of programs that Iron Mountain's able to offer its employees. So that was really a huge advantage for me as I was looking for a new opportunity. It was a really good fit, and I have been absolutely thrilled with the move, and I'm really excited to be part of this team.
That's so cool. And so for you, it's still fresh, right? You said it's only been 8 months. So what did things kind of look like for you with the onboarding process, as far as, when you talk about culture, that's where culture starts, day one, right?
It
How are
is.
you getting connected? What are you learning? Are you already seeing that it's, more than just words on a wall? So for you, that's still fresh. So what did that kind of look like right off the bat to see the culture?
No, and I have to say, this was a super interesting time for me to join, because I joined right when COVID hit. So it was right in the middle. So I still, to this day, there's a couple of people, I'm based in Denver, and there's a couple of people on my team that I've been fortunate enough to be able to meet with nice patio, not as nice as Arizona patio weather, but we have been able to get outside and at least meet in person. But outside of that, the rest of the company, I've not yet met in person, which is a really strange, everyone's dealing with it, right? It's a really strange dynamic. But really the onboarding was phenomenal from my perspective. It was really, again, this shows, we were chatting about this earlier with just the word inclusion getting batted around, but inclusive to me really did mean that I met from, on my onboarding interviews, I met with everybody, one person from at least each department across the whole company, which I don't know that that's necessarily always the case. It was very apparent to me early on that this was all about being part of a family, and there was accountability across all chains and all departments, and there, it's a flat organization in terms of open door policies, that it wasn't necessarily a title thing. It was, here are the people that are going to help you do your job. And I so appreciated that, especially starting where you would normally go and fly to a headquarters and have this in-person training and how to use your systems. And I mean, a lot of that is just a team that you surround yourself with, that they invest that time to make sure that you're not on an island by yourself. So it really was even training on your computer. Here's how to get into your systems. And it was phenomenal. It was really, I think Dan and I had a conversation a week or two after I started, and just, I was complimenting again, him and his team, and just how well that process had gone for me.
Dan, compared to, her process that she went through right during the middle of COVID, right? Compare that so we can have a little bit of an understanding what was different. Obviously, you still went above and beyond to make her feel that culture right off the bat, but of course there's going to be some pieces that are missing, right? Some travel to meet teammates and things like that. And I'm sure your team went, full force to make sure that the culture was still there. But walk us through a little bit about maybe what was different.
It's interesting because the COVID situation has created an opportunity to change the way we think about recruiting. And culture really, it starts before onboarding. It starts with the recruiting process, because those first impressions that you give a candidate and the first impression they get of the company, of the people that they're going to be working with, is critical, because we're
Absolutely.
assessing each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think using the technology of video, while you lose that personal interaction at some level, you also have the opportunity for people to meet more people in the process. So a candidate can meet somebody in Singapore if they're in Phoenix. And so for Julia's experience, that's one of the things that's changed, is we now think, okay, so who can we get this person not just to talk to on a phone, but to actually get to interact with, without having to have he or she fly to 6 or 7 or 8 different places.
Yeah.
So it's been creative for us. And one of the things that I'm actually working with Julia and her team on right now is we want to do some videos of a day in the life of a security officer, a critical facilities tech, or somebody in finance, so that candidates also get a sense of what the environment is like that they might be working in. So it's been an opportunity for us to kind of change the way we think about not only recruiting, but yeah, the onboarding process and the whole inclusion, if you will, in terms of finding different ways to have somebody new feel like they are a part of some place that's broad.
Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad that you said that about, that it all starts even before the onboarding, right? Because it's this big circle. It's this big cycle. You've got staff that already works there, that they're talking with their colleagues and others outside of the organization. That's how I found out about the great culture, because I'm getting it from your team. So your team doesn't have to sell it to me anymore. I'm sold. I'm looking at jobs with you guys. Why not? Because it's great. Right? So right there, like you said, it's the recruiting, it's happening on its own too. I mean, it's this full circle of the staff is amazing, they're excited, and they are free spokespeople for the company. So like you said, that recruitment stage is where you're getting all of the culture as well before people are even stepping on board, but then continuing that process. So, Julie, what you were saying about having it be a little different than startups, that's where a lot of that difference comes into play, right? Because the startups, they're still getting that momentum and building that culture. They don't necessarily have the folks going out as, their reps to talk about the great company yet. They're still building that. So now with you guys, you've been in the process for a little while. That recruiting is part of the amazing culture that you guys have. So Dan, I'm really glad that you mentioned that. Um, as far as the growth over time, we mentioned COVID kind of changed a little bit. How have you continued to maintain that company culture, not only through COVID, but also through just the growth that you've had, right? Especially, Dan, I'll back up to what you were saying about acquiring different locations. So now not only do you have your culture that you need to share with everybody, but now you're acquiring other locations with completely different people that are not connected, right? Now you have to teach them about the culture. How was, because I know the Phoenix location was one of those acquisitions. So what does that whole process look like?
Well, see, it's interesting because culture is an evolution. And when you do an acquisition, you're not just buying a customer base, you're not just buying buildings, you're bringing in new people. And you know, I used to think about the old model where you'd say, are they a good fit? But that's the wrong approach, because what you really want to do is think about it in terms of what do they bring that makes us better, whether it's one person in the recruiting process or it's an acquisition of 20 or 50 or 100 or 200 people. And so we really try and take an approach to say, let's get to know who they are. Let's learn what they've done, what's made them something that if we didn't want to buy them unless it was something worth buying, right? So
Mhm.
there must have been something in their culture that made them not only a good target, but a good addition. So I think part of it is when we think about integration, it's being open to integrating not just into our culture, but as part of growing our culture.
Mhm. And then Julia, kind of that same question, you stepped into a new role and you already had a team that was there, right? So you had to step in above a team that's already there, and then you had to kind of fit into that culture and find your way. How did that work? How is that going?
I listened a lot. Really, it was one of the biggest things that I think anytime you go into a new company, don't instead of just saying I have a way of doing things, you sit and listen to why a process is the way it is and why things have been done this way. And not saying that you may not see a better way of doing that, but understanding why things are the way they are before you go in and start to make changes. So I was extremely fortunate. The team that's in place is absolutely phenomenal, and I really just get to take credit for all the good work that they do. But it's yeah, I mean, it's a great question. It's hard in that situation to come in again, especially not being able to go and visit them in person and
Mhm.
shake hands. And thank goodness for video that at least I was able to have that connection. But I really did spend the first, I would call it 2-3 months, just absorbing myself in the. Luckily, I came from a data center background, so I didn't have to get up to speed on the product itself,
Nice.
but I really was more figuring out who did what, who's people, where were people's strengths, where were people's weaknesses, was everyone in the right position? And I did make some shifts from that perspective of just seeing passion in one area of the business versus they may have been responsible for something they didn't love doing. So it's just kind of balancing all of that out.
Mhm.
But one of the things that we really focused on our kickoff this year was really how every single one of us across the team is important, and all of us have a unique set of skills and personality that bring something positive to the culture. And I think that's one of the things that we strive across the team, all of us, that we're all important to the process. And that really has been and that's a great challenge for all of us, because I think sometimes individuals can have a challenge to see that in themselves, and it's our opportunity as leaders to help pull that out of them and have them confident in their abilities and be super proud of that,
Mhm.
and know that what they're bringing is something completely unique and just as important as the person sitting next to them.
Mhm. But it shows how great you guys are with building that culture and infusing that into everything, because there's a lot of companies that just think, "Oh, my staff knows that they're good," or "My staff knows that
Right.
they're," but You
Well,
guys,
actually, and you saying earlier, actually, that I'm sure warmed Dan's heart as much as it did mine to hear that we have employees out there talking about how great the company is and how
yeah,
much they love the culture. One of the other things that we talked about is that every single one of us is a marketing ambassador or a brand ambassador. It's not just the marketing team, we're all brand ambassadors. And the biggest compliment that you can give is a referral to friends that you want to come and join us in this great culture, right? Or it's working with a customer. And I really, from a marketing perspective, and Dan mentioned that our teams work very closely together on a lot of different initiatives, but ultimately our goal is to influence relationships, not only positive relationships with our employees, but that runs over into our relationships with our customers, with our communities. I mean, even with our investors, right? That's a holistic view of all of those things are tied together, and you're not going to touch one without that affecting the whole system. And the more positive energy you can put out there with all of those different communities, the better off we'll be.
hmm and it's
It's a really important part of our culture because if you do the right thing by your employees, they will do the right thing by your customers.
yeah,
And you know, we kind of have three things that we say that we're trying our vision. We want to make sure every one of our employees understands and embraces the vision that we have, that they feel valued, and that they're proud of the fact that what they do matters. And you know, Julia referred to this. It's we take a different view, a sort of a broader view of what diversity means and inclusion. You know, we tend to think about the traditional definitions of diversity with race and ethnicity and gender and all of those things. For us, part of our culture, and a really important part of our culture, is the diversity of the roles within the organization and what people do. And so, you know, interestingly enough, we have 24-hour operation, obviously. A data center runs 24/7. We sell to our customers 100% uptime. So that requires folks on our critical facilities team and our service delivery team and also our security team. And if somebody comes to one of our data centers and they only encounter one person, that's a security officer. And so we made a decision, and this is actually, I'm proud of this because I was the one who advocated for this. We made a decision to have only proprietary security. So our security officers are Iron Mountain employees. And so they feel a sense of connection. And we can teach them about the brand. They understand the brand so that they become brand ambassadors from the first minute that somebody touches our facility or our property. And it's the same thing for somebody in finance or somebody in legal or wherever they work. They're a critical part of the whole. And that's an important piece of what we're striving for in our culture.
hmm because if they interact with, that one person that doesn't connect and doesn't embrace the culture and the mission and everything, and that happens to be the one person that a customer engages with, and that's, a bad day, and then that's their impression. And then especially nowadays with technology, they're going to go post about it and write about it and yell at everybody about that one person out of the how many staff that you said you guys have. It's important to all the way to that level of you talking about the security. If that's
Yep.
the one person that they interact with that day, they're like, wow, everybody truly feels the culture. So with making sure that everybody, embraces the mission and that they're proud to work there and everything. I know that you guys have some programs that are available to the the IMDC. That's the lingo. The IMDC employees.
Well done.
um, I know that there's some programs and things going on. What kind of things do you have to offer the employees so that they're really learning and gaining and growing to embrace that mission and that culture as well?
So we're very focused on role-based training. And one of the reasons we're focused on role-based training is we want people to understand what their job is today, but we also want to prepare them for the job that's coming up and the opportunities.
Mhm.
And that goes back to a little bit of our challenges around diversity. So when you think about the technology world, there isn't a lot of diversity at senior levels. So for us, the best way to address that is to grow our own.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're always going to be looking to bring new people in at all levels. But if we can, over the course of, and this is not an overnight kind of thing, you got to do this over the course of years. But if we can work with our communities, whether it's STEM programs or it's universities or whatever it might be, and we can bring folks in at the lower levels, and then we can have a training and development program within the company that helps us grow them, then in the future, when new opportunities come available at a manager or director or VP level, we have as much opportunity or more opportunity to look inside for candidates
Mm-hmm.
as we do going outside. So that's one of the things that we're really focused on this year is a transformational year for us in that, working with our partners outside, doing some mentoring, doing some internships, and really trying to build a pipeline of highly credible talent for all of our roles.
Mm-hmm. And
And I think,
go ahead.
oh, sorry, Kendra. I was just going to add, I think that's also really important just from a customer or employee retention perspective,
Mm-hmm.
that if people can see a clear path that the company not only believes in them to the point where they're going to invest in giving them the tools and the training that they need to progress, but there's also a path that they can see the commitment to hiring from within, that makes all the difference. People aren't going to leave for another opportunity because we do have such a good culture. People want to stay, but they also need that career path to be very clear in front of them. So I think that helps tremendously with employee retention as well.
Mm-hmm. And I can speak from experience. That's why I've left positions in the past, because
Mhm.
I had grown to a point where I built my team. I built as much as I could, and I grew as much as I could, and then I kind of hit a cap, and even if it was a great company with a great culture, I didn't have room to continue to grow. So, Julia, like you said, it helps the retention if you've got a great culture, you're supporting your staff, they are invested in the mission of the company. Oh, and a bonus, they can keep growing within the company. Then why go anywhere else? That's fantastic. I love that. And I think that's a piece that a lot of companies are missing, is that opportunity to train their staff for those roles. Not just say, "Oh yeah, there's room to grow," but to really provide those opportunities, because how many times in jobs do they say, "Oh yeah, there's opportunity to grow," but then the particular position that they're trying to go for has requirements that they don't have and they can't get, right? So if you guys are giving them the opportunity to train them in those roles that they can grow in, it allows them that opportunity for that foundation to stay.
Yeah, and every organization is a pyramid. I mean, it's not unlimited opportunities, but I think if we invest in our employees and we give them a good experience, and there isn't an opportunity, and it means at some point that they go someplace else, they're going to go someplace else, and that entity is going to hire them because of what they learned
Mm-hmm.
at Iron Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're helping them in their career growth. Hopefully we're going to have opportunities to keep them for, years and years. The Iron Mountain in the core business has folks that have been in the company 30 and 35 and 40 years. We're not old enough in data center to say that yet, but we aspire to that.
Mm-hmm.
But we also aspire to inspire our employees for their own growth and their own potential, and to be the best that they can be in our environment. And if at some point they go somewhere else, they go with the pride of having worked at IMDC.
Mm-hmm. Julia, you being an outside hire, you must have been pretty phenomenal.
Oh, no question about it. She's a rock star. She is my hero.
Hey, I've heard from your teammates, and I was so excited when they said you were going to be able to join us on the show with Dan and I today, because I've heard lots of good things already.
Oh, well, that's kind. It's easy when you have a really good supportive team around you. So, and that's true at all levels. I can't stress that enough. It really is just about the work ethic and culture and all of the things that make IMDC unique. That really they've made it easy on me for sure.
Well, and especially right now, you hear people talk about work-life balance. That's not a thing. It all blurs together, right? Especially we're at home now and you've got kids and maybe throwing a laundry basket in the washer real fast. There's no such thing as work-life balance. It's all a blur. So if your work can be pleasant and you have these amazing people that are an extended family, right? Again, it's part of this whole thing. It's not just, oh, I clock in, I clock out, go to work. The family, the people that you work with become part of your family. And Julia, like you said, your team, if everyone's engaging and interacting and they appreciate each other and they get along and it helps make this whole, especially during the pandemic, right? Makes this whole process a lot easier for everybody to deal with.
It does, and actually, and one really cool thing that I've seen through my team has been that we are a global organization. And before I started, the marketing team in particular was very siloed to regional marketing teams. And so one of the things that I did when I first got here was really flatten the organization to say, listen, we're a global team. While there's going to be obviously be pockets of marketing initiatives that we do on a regional level, the main focus of our marketing is going to be done at a global level. And we meet once a week. We have global team meetings, but they're engaging more. So we are learning more about. We have a team that's based in Amsterdam, a team that's based in Singapore, and then the rest of us are spread out across the US. There's actually only two of us, and they're the two of us that live in Denver that are in the same city. Everybody else is in a unique location. So that's been really cool. Although they all got along well, the times that they met, they didn't really communicate all that much in between times. And that's been a way to bring a very global team much more intimately together just by having that regular cadence and communication and just working with each other more closely on projects where before they were a bit siloed. So that's been cool to see, just their relationships growing because of that.
And one of the things that COVID has actually done, when we talk about inclusivity, we always talk about people being able to bring their whole self to work and be themselves. And working remotely, we're actually getting to know our colleagues in a different way. We are getting to know more of who they are. We're seeing dogs run across the screen. We're seeing kids, all of those things. And so in a strange way, one of the ironic benefits of working this way is we get to know each other in a different way. And in our stories, we get to know more of our colleagues' stories, which is part of what makes them who they are and part of what makes them valuable as a colleague.
It definitely is the reverse effect through all this. Like you said, we're seeing. I mean, on these Zoom calls, we're seeing inside people's houses. We're seeing in their kitchens.
You see my horse,
right? We were on a show a couple weeks back, and the gentleman on the show, we were like, "What room are you in?" He's like, "Oh, I'm in my 4-year-old's bedroom because she has the best acoustics." Like we're seeing inside. You're letting people into your home. So, Dan, you're right. We're getting a different, closer view of the whole person that we're interacting with. I want to back up a second to Julia. You started to talk a little bit about the global side of things and how not only do you have locations and staff in global areas, but Iron Mountain Data Centers, and Iron Mountain Inc. is global, right? So there's a lot that you guys are doing to give back in these global communities. And I want to highlight and hear about some of this stuff. So either one of you can take that, but I want to hear a little bit more about how you guys are giving back in these global communities.
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to start off the conversation, Dan, and then you can add anything to it. So we have a program that's called IMDC Cares. And the whole premise of building it was, again, we talked earlier about how our engagement, employees, customers, communities, it's really important for us to give back to the communities, especially where we have data centers. Really, if you think of data centers as being sort of the connectivity hub in each of those markets where everybody comes to connect. Now, we talk about that as a very physical networking way, that the cloud seems like it's not connected to anything. It all runs on very physical fiber that runs into data centers. So if you think of that just from, that's the business side of things. If you look at that from a community side of things, it's just important to us that we are a central location for people to come and meet. And we mean that from the humanistic side of things as well. So if we're going to be part of a community, it's really important for us to give back to that community. And a couple of the things that we've done, as Dan mentioned earlier, STEAM is a major focal point for us, especially as it relates to starting to train that population at a very early age that come and join technology. Like, we're trying to do our part in terms of getting awareness out there that little girls can absolutely take this path. And hopefully they end up being part of our workforce, and ideally with us someday. And that starts at a very young age. So we definitely look in the local communities that, again, we have data centers, we definitely look for opportunities along those lines. Phoenix, we actually did, and I believe you had our colleague Rick Crutchley on to speak to this before on your program as well, but we were able to do some Chromebook donations out to some kids in need, which especially has been vital during COVID, of just trying to donate some of those essential tools for school kids in these communities that need assistance. So it's programs like that that we're always looking for, that we can get engaged. We have a large community of customers as well as partners that we work with within the data centers. So we're always looking for opportunities that make sense for us to be able to give back to the community that gives so much to us.
Mhm. How do you find these organizations? And is it organic, or is it usually staff that finds them, or the organizations that reach out? Because, for example, Crutch was on one of the shows that is focused on STEM here in the Phoenix Business Radio X studio. It's the SciTech Institute is all about STEM and getting
Yep.
STEM. So that was the show that Crutch was on. Um, but I don't know how that relationship started. So do those usually start organically, or how does that happen?
Typically, yes. I can't speak specifically to how Rick got engaged with the SciTech Institute. I know he sits on the board, but I'm not sure how originally that organically came together. But yeah, I would say most of the time it's through our employees that have kids that are in school that are aware of a program, or a lot of times it's through our operation and frontline staff, that if a customer comes into the data center and happens to mention it, I mean, really that's where it's meaningful to us, is when it's brought to us by a customer, or someone has a specific personal engagement with an organization that makes sense for us to collaborate with.
Yeah, we also, I am very fortunate to have a great HR team, and the HR team is reaching out to organizations. They're looking at the community. You know, we say that when we think about how we want to look, as it were, in each of our locations, we want to look like our community. So when we're looking at recruiting, it's what is the area? What are the demographics of the area of that particular data center? And so that brings us into the community and makes some of those contacts. Our general managers are very active with trade associations, and through that we get a lot of the leads. And then we get people who approach us, who say, you know, we've heard about you, just like you said, Kendra. We get a reputation, and so we have organizations that reach out to us and say, we'd like to work with you, or are there any opportunities? So lots of different ways.
Hmm. And then not only is there, all of this about giving back to the communities, but another thing that ties to this that I want to talk about is the sustainability side of what's going on
Yeah.
too. My background, actually way back, is in animal behavior and conservation and sustainability, so all of that. So this piece, it was another one of those things that I found out about, you guys. I was like, this is amazing. So I want to hear a little bit more about the sustainability side, because I feel like those two things are very ironic. People think of a data center, but not necessarily sustainability and, that piece of that global give back that you guys are doing.
Yeah, I'll start, and then Julia, you can jump in. So we globally run our data centers on 100% renewable energy. It's a big, big focus for us. And so we're very active in understanding new developments in technology around energy use, energy management. We pass that the credits of our sustainability initiative, our energy, our renewable energy, to our customers so that they get the benefit of that. And now we're looking more broadly. We're looking at our water usage because we do a lot of cooling. So how do we use water? We actually, in the last semester of last year, graduate class at Presidio College in San Francisco worked with some folks on my team to look at waste and how do we get to a zero waste profile. So there's lots of things going on. We want to be good citizens. We want to be good to our community. We want to be good to the planet. And the data center industry uses an awful lot of energy. So we've got to be focused on this. It's really important to the future.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that is that what's really important to us as well is that we have some of our largest customers have definitely come out with sustainability statements in terms of when they want to become carbon neutral and become zero waste. It's something that our entire planet all needs to come together and be on the same page about, right? It's something that we're super proud that we can say that we are a partner of theirs, that in order for them to reach their sustainability goals, they have to partner with an entity or a data center company that also allows them to achieve those goals. So the one really cool thing I think about the sustainability program that Dan and his team have built is that we actually have our sustainability programs run through third-party certification processes. So there's a lot of people that can, there again, I say this a lot when talking about Iron Mountain, we walk the walk. It's not just lip service. We have these third-party entities that have built these programs to say, this is what it truly means to be sustainable. And you have to meet these parameters in order to be able to say that you are certified. And that's been really important to us to achieve that level of scrutiny internally, to turn that focus on ourselves to say, okay, can we really do this? Do we really meet these parameters? And be able to talk about that and grow with these partners that have also brought this to us as a common goal of being sustainable and not hurting our planet more than we need to.
And when you've got some of these customers, these clients, these partners that, they need to reach their goals. And so they need to partner with companies that have that same goal, such as you guys. How is that in reverse? Are you also being very particular now with your goals, with who you partner with and who you reach out to and customers and clients as well?
Absolutely. So we have a third-party program where we look at the sustainability initiatives of the contractors that we work with. That's part of when we bid out a contract. Those are part of the parameters. And we're trying to make sure that the industries that we participate in are as aggressive and focused as we are on these important issues.
Okay. So that third party that Julia was mentioning, it's internal, it's out to the partners, it's looking at the whole picture.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I quickly should mention and give them a little plug. It's the Future of Internet Power is one of the organizations. It's FOIP. And then there's another one that's called REBA.
REBA. What does REBA stand for? Does it?
I knew you were going to ask me that. There's only so many acronyms I can remember off the top of my head.
I got my one for the day.
It's the RE is renewable energy, but I'm lost after that.
Actually, I do remember. It's the Renewable Energy Buyers Alliance.
There you go.
As soon as you did the renewable energy, it triggered me, Dan.
See, what a team. We work together. There's your culture in a
That's right.
moment.
So with some of these programs that, you're talking about, the sustainability program, you're talking about these global give backs in areas. With all of these pieces, how do these kind of come to life? I mean, it sounds like, Dan, you said your team started the sustainability mission and whatnot. So it sounds like a lot of this is just, again, it's grown from the culture of the team, and that somebody internally is coming up with these ideas and needing to, you know, push outward. Is that kind of how all of these programs kind of happen? They just kind of start with somebody internally?
Interestingly enough, it's grown through the whole company. It's not just about the data center part of the business. This is the sustainability, the environmental, social governance initiatives are part of the core of the enterprise culture. So we work very closely with our partners in the real estate division of Iron Mountain and some of the other folks to understand what they're doing outside of data center, for them to understand what we're doing, and to work together to grow the programs synergistically.
Hmm. I love
Although
that.
Kendra, to that point of you discussing that, one thing that also comes from being a part of a larger company is that we, on the core side of the business, that we are able to leverage. We have dozens and dozens of employee resource groups, and the whole point of these ERGs is that people with shared passions and shared ideas, and sometimes that's cultural, sometimes it's gender-based. I mean, there's all sort. The spectrum is extremely broad, but it is really cool that you can find your place. There's a family within the family, that this little group of people that are all passionate about similar things can all join together, and there is that momentum that they can come up with a cool idea, bring it to the team, and that is that it's fostering it's fostering people's passions, which I think is just a phenomenal platform to that great ideas often stem from.
And it's directly linking their passions to the business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an executive sponsor of one of the ERGs, the capable ERG for folks with disabilities, and it's how do we take that and make it part of the business and make it part of who we are, so that not only are people with disabilities feeling valued, but we're giving back to the community and we're making it part of our core business.
What are a couple of the other ERGs that you could give
So
us an example?
there is a Latino ERG, there's a women's ERG, there's a veterans ERG, there's a Blacks ERG. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones, but
And
it's a great piece of our culture.
yeah, it's like being in a club
Yep,
within
it is.
a family, right? It's like the family, but then you've got the kid that does basketball, and then you've got the kid that's in drama. It allows you to be part of that big picture, but then you've got your little niche in there as well.
And one of the nice things about the way the ERGs work is that they work together. It's
Mhm.
not just about one issue. It's how do we have all the ERGs working together to make us a better company and leveraging the various issues and interests.
Mhm. I want to be part of the one of the clubs. Um, so we've covered so much, and I have so much more that I would love to pick both of your brains about. But the clock is fast approaching us, which I'm amazed that this happens every time. Um, I do want to highlight, we've talked a little bit about missions and things like that, but I would like to hear, what are the values, the core tenets, if there's some that you can tell us so that we know a little bit more of the inside, right? Not just words on a wall, but for you guys, what is it that you're kind of living by that's leading towards these missions?
So for data center, we say we actually have a purpose statement.
Hmm.
So, that, we want to be proud. And so when will we be proud? We say we'll be proud when we're indispensable to the lives of our customers, and that we become the place to work for data center professionals. And then the third piece is that we do things the right way and have a reputation for delivering trust and safety and having an ongoing positive impact on our environment and our communities. So that's really what we rally around as the purpose of IMDC.
Perfect. And I love that because it's more than just a data center. right? There's
Right.
so much more. Your purpose that you just listed barely mentions anything about data. And that's what makes you you. That's what makes IMDC unique is that it is more than just, hey, we do data storage. There's so much more from the sustainability to the global impact to STEAM right here locally in Arizona, right? There's so much more that is making the culture and building the culture for what you and what IMDC is. So I will continue to read and learn and look into um, you guys because it really is a phenomenal company that I hope this podcast shines some light on as well. So before we start to wrap up, there is one question that I wanted to give a little bit of time to that I always ask at the end, which sometimes is a very easy answer and sometimes brings up some discussion, as we noticed right before we went on air. So, one of the questions that I ask at the very end is kind of a tough question, really, when you boil it down. But when you look at the culture of the organization, if you could describe your culture, your company culture in one word, what would it be?
Go for it, Julia. I'll let you go
There's
first.
some different words that are
We did. We picked different words. So my word was inclusion.
Mhm.
And really, I say that from the perspective that inclusion, I think it's thrown around a lot right now. It's a trendy word to use, but I really do think that inclusion to IMDC has a much more broader sense. You just heard that it's not just typical what people think of inclusion of sort of the high level buckets. For us, it goes as deep as going back to every single person has unique qualities and unique characteristics to bring to the culture. And that really is what I'm so proud of, to be part of this team and this culture.
Mhm.
And I would say we're evolving. We're on a journey. It's fun. I love my job. I say I actually am honored to have the role that I have because I get to have so much, hopefully, positive impact on our evolution and our
Mhm.
future. But we're doing this together, and we'll continue to do acquisitions. We'll continue to grow, and so we're going to continue to evolve, and that's part of the fun of it
Mhm.
because it never gets old and it's not stale. It's fun in today's world to be in something that's growing and that's actually relevant. I mean, data centers are relevant, particularly in the time of COVID,
Mhm.
because if you're going, if you're doing what we're doing, or if you're playing a game online, or you're going to school online, or you're buying something online, all of that information is going through a data center someplace. So, and if you're getting medical care, it's going through a data center someplace. So we really are relevant, and it's kind of fun to be involved.
Mhm. And I love both of those words because they go together, right? You've got the inclusion of your staff. They feel needed, they feel unique, they feel supported, but they are all part of this evolving journey that you're building in a way. We talked about some of the programs that you have to support the staff. You're building this journey in a way that it's evolving, but they can stay there, right? They can grow and stay and be part of that evolving journey. So I love both of those words. So as we wrap up, I would like to give both of you the opportunity just to give anyone the way to reach out, way to contact you if needed, but also if there's any ask that you have. I mean, we've covered a lot today from sustainability and global impact and supporting communities local. So if there is any ask that you have, how people can get involved, how people can help, I wanted to save these last few minutes for that for you both.
Well, I'll make a plug for we do have some open positions. So if you're interested in joining the team, joining the band, go to ironmountain.com and go to the careers page and join us. And even if you don't see something that's there today and you're interested, um, you know, be in contact with us. We're trying to be as broad and creative and developmental as we can. So we're interested in new ideas new people and being part of our growth. Julia?
Yeah, I would just add, if there's we try to tell our story in a very consumable way, and we actually just went through a rebrand where we really are focusing more on the humanistic side of our story, because while we're at the core of digital transformation, there's a lot of human behavior and the human touch that we like to provide from our customer service perspective. So we do have social channels where we have a LinkedIn social channel as well as YouTube videos. And we actually just finished producing a video that's really cool, to Dan's point, about how data centers are this hidden unknown entity, but really do sit at the core of everything that we do in a digital world. So I would love it if anyone's interested in learning more about us to go check that out. And obviously reach out. Dan or I are both on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out. We'll put you in touch with whoever makes sense within the organization to speak to.
Perfect. Well, thank you to the both of you for being here today. I absolutely, it was a pleasure. So thank you. And in the studio today, actually, we have two other amazing ladies that are here. Karen is the one behind the button. So she's the one that makes all of this work. I just talk. And then another special addition in the studio today. My mom popped in to listen. So she's not gonna like that I just mentioned that, but she's pretty fabulous and is now excited about Iron Mountain data centers too. So I appreciate the two of you and the two lovely ladies in the studio today. So thank you for joining us on the Culture Crush podcast, the podcast that does a deep dive with company leaders to learn about real life experiences, tips for a good culture, and the best practices for creating a healthy work environment where employees can find joy and satisfaction in their work. We have some amazing companies that are coming up in the next few months as well. So we look forward to new companies, new highlights, new resources. And thank you again for the two of you joining today. And that's it. We'll see you guys later.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Culture Crush, the only podcast out there that does a deep dive of companies that are crushing it with a great company culture. If you think your company has a strong culture that should be highlighted, please reach out to Kendra Maples on LinkedIn or email us at culturecrushpodcast@gmail.com.